Go ahead and start. Good morning and welcome to the final day of Age Positive 2021. My name is Kathy Boyer-Schutzel, a member of the Conference Planning Committee and staff with KC Communities for All Ages, an initiative of the Mid-America Regional Council. We know this audience consistently looks for programming and other ways to highlight the needs of older adults. One event we want to lift up during today's welcome is World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, scheduled on June the 14th. And I believe it's always scheduled on June 14th. This annual event promotes a better understanding of abuse and neglect of older persons by raising awareness. This conference provides an excellent opportunity and platform to promote this event, and we encourage you to visit the website that's provided in chat to obtain wonderful programming ideas, media announcements, and a host of other suggestions that you or your organization might consider. This audience today can play a critical role in helping to prevent elder abuse. Educating older adults, professionals, caregivers, and the public on abuse is critical. Up to 5 million older Americans are abused every year. Annual loss by victims of financial abuse is estimated to be at least $36.5 billion. Approximately 1 in 10 Americans 60 and over have experienced some form of elder abuse. Some estimates range as high as 5 million older persons are abused each year. Social isolation and mental impairment are two, among other factors, that make older adults vulnerable to abuse. This conference, as with last year's virtual Age Positive conference, has included and highlighted workshops on social isolation. We, those of us who are here today at the Age Positive conference, play an important role in educating people about this issue. And one way to do this is to participate in some way in Elder Abuse Awareness Day. Here locally in the Kansas City region, I know that there are local jurisdictions that are issuing proclamations, and these sample proclamations are on this website. The City of Lee Summit is turning their fountains purple on June 14th, and there are many other examples too. On the elder abuse website, there's an opportunity for you to list and let the people around the country know how your city or your organization is raising this issue. So please participate in some way. As mentioned yesterday and the day before, sponsorships for Age Positive conferences and other conferences like Age Positive are fundamental in allowing us to adhere to our guiding principle, which is Age Positive's guiding principle, to offer a high quality, low cost professional development experience to those who design and implement programs for older adults. Please watch with me a presentation that acknowledges our wonderful sponsors for this year's conference. Thank you to our sponsors, and thanks to each and every one of you who are with us today and who have shared your last 2 mornings with us. At this time, I would like to turn the reins over to Kathy Armitage, who will introduce our first workshop presenters.
Good morning. Hi, my name is Kathy Armitage, and I'm a member of the Age Positive Planning Committee and on staff with the YMCA at Platte County. You're familiar with these housekeeping details by now, but for those who have joined us for the first time, all participants, please mute your screen, mute yourself during the presentation. Sorry about that. Other than for the presenter, please keep your cameras turned off, as this will help you to overcome the connectivity. Please enter your questions for the presenter in the chat, and I will keep track of the questions and relay them to our presenter throughout the presentation. Please also use the chat to enter your comment. It is also important to share and learn from each other during this session. This presentation will be recorded. The recording and PowerPoint presentation will be made available within 2 weeks following the conference. You will receive an email announcement when these are available in the conference website. Now it is my pleasure to introduce Kristin O'Shea, owner, coach, speaker, trainer at O'Shea Strength Coaching, who will present the workshop Encore Career. Change your story about aging and your strengths. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Hello. Hello. My name is Kristin O'Shea, and before I start my PowerPoint, I'll share a little bit more about myself. I live in Topeka, Kansas with my husband, and I have O'Shea Strengths Coaching, so I teach and train around Gallup's Clifton Strengths, employee engagement, and well-being. My background is in human development and gerontology, so I've always been interested in the concepts of aging and our aging population, and I'm really excited to be here with you today to share more about that. So let me go ahead and share my screen. I'll be taking questions throughout, so feel free to be active in the chat room as well. All right, here we go. Kathy, feel free to interrupt me if you need me for anything. If you go to Hallmark and you're looking for cards for graduation, maybe some of you just attended a graduation or sent someone something. Oh, 1 second, got to change something on my PowerPoint. We don't want it to automatically move to the next slide. If you're looking for cards for people, 1 second, use timings. There we go. All right. You'll see a lot of things about hope and the future, right? The future is looking bright. It's about celebration. Oh, the places you'll go. There's all these possibilities for graduates. In the same way, if you look at retirement, it's another milestone in our lives, but it's seen very differently. So graduation is often celebrated. There's a lot of different markers in your life. You think about maybe visiting technical colleges or universities, thinking about what's next. You might even get career counseling. But for retirement, it's a little bit of a different story. So if you look at cards that you might give someone when they retire, you won't see things about bright futures. It's like retired and admired and see ya. And many times our society thinks that retirement is all about relaxation. But I think often people are stressed and concerned about what retirement's going to look like. What is their identity going to be? When someone asks you, what do you do? What are you going to say? As you don't have that career that you've had for so many years. People also worry about money and other things as well. So consider these stories. This is my friend Janice, and Janice at age 63, she retired from the healthcare field. And as she was thinking about retirement, she was really nervous about it. She wasn't sure if she would enjoy it or not. And now that she has retired, she loves it. And she wishes she would have done it sooner, but she had no idea of knowing how she would feel about retirement once the time came. Here's some other stories. A 59-year-old VP of sales wants to retire in the next 3 years or so and wants to get another career going. He wants to do some speaking, some songwriting. So he's trying to work on getting that started while he's in a job that has a lot of demand, requires a lot of time, and is trying to balance the two. Is also somewhat concerned about what will happen if my employer finds out that I'm also already trying to, start this other career at the same time that I'm working. Another example, a 55-year-old federal government chief for the state actually was required to retire at age 57. So this individual wasn't too excited about retiring and didn't want to just sit at home and relax. That wasn't going to be his style. And so I had to think about, okay, what am I going to do next? How am I going to spend my time and my talents in this next phase? Another example, a 66-year-old community development executive might like to retire but can't for financial reasons. They have to keep working. And that's a whole nother scenario. So as we look at this model of well-being, I know yesterday you had a presenter speak about wellness, and so there's a lot of different models out there, but we can think of these as different areas in our life of well-being. And so I want you to think about, as I go through these areas, I want you to think about 3 questions. So the first one being, in what area of well-being right now are you thriving? What area is going really well? In what area of your well-being are you suffering the most? Suffering is a strong word, but which area is just not going as well as you'd like it right now? And then finally, when you think about your own retirement, which area are you most concerned about? So let's go through each area real quick, and then you'll actually break out into breakout rooms. So I'll give you the cue when we're ready for that. So starting off with purpose, liking what you do each day, being motivated to achieve your goals. So for many people, this is their vocation, their job, right? What is it that you're here and you're doing every day? But we also have purpose within our family roles and our volunteer and what we do in our community. Social, that's all the people, family, friends in your life, the relationships you have. Financial, managing economics and reducing stress and increasing security. Community, that's enjoying where you live, feeling pride in your community and safety. Physical, this is what we often think about when we think about well-being, right? Having good health and energy to do the things we need to do. We think about food, sleep, exercise, and then finally spirituality, which can mean different things to different people, but finding meaning and purpose and connection to self and others greater than yourself. All right, so again, I'm gonna have you go into the breakout rooms, answer 3 questions. 1, which area of well-being do you believe right now that you're thriving the most? Which area of your well-being right now do you feel like is suffering the most? And number 3, when you think about your own retirement, which area of your well-being are you concerned about the most? All right, I'll let you break out into your breakout rooms. If you haven't joined, go ahead and click join. Not sure if you saw that, but my laptop just about went down. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back, welcome back. As you come back, I would love to hear if you would type in the chat box, just type concern : and type which area of well-being you talked about when you were, what you were most concerned about for your own retirement. Welcome back. I know everyone comes in at different times. Yeah, so I asked people to share in the chat box which area, when you thought about your own retirement, were you most concerned about? I'm hearing a lot of financial, a lot of physical, purpose. This is great. We missed the questions. Can the questions be put in the chat box? We can try to do that next time for sure. The questions were, when you think about your own well-being, and so that's on the screen right now, in these different areas, which area of your well-being are you thriving in right now? Which area of well-being are you suffering in right now? And as you think about your own retirement, which area are you most concerned about when you think about your own retirement? So very fascinating to see that most people were, I would say if I were to average what I just saw in the chat box, it would be financial, which is often what we think about when we think about retirement. Yeah, money. Good deal. Thank you everyone for that. I often ask people too, when I'm in groups, I say, you know, you don't need to share what you spoke about with your neighbor, but oftentimes people say there's value in having a conversation about their well-being with another person. So I just encourage every day, think a little bit about your well-being and how you're being intentional towards improving that. And as you're thinking about planning for your own retirement, how can you ease some of those concerns? And we'll talk a little bit more about that today. Okay, so what will be your encore? And so my question for you here is, we got to think about this post-retirement phase. It could be as long as your middle years in duration. And it's time for you to almost have a whole nother career. And that doesn't mean that it has to be, you know, so job driven. It could look like volunteering. It could look like changing interests completely. I've watched my own parents as they've entered this phase volunteer on local and national levels. My dad's written a book. They've really taken this concept of engaging in these years of, let's say, 55 to 75 with vigor and looking at what they can do next. So right now we have a poll question, and my question for you now is, what age do you think that you're going to retire at? So go ahead and answer. Obviously, it can always change. Yeah, feel free to put it in the chat box too. All right, about 93 people have responded that they say roughly 65 to 70 is when they think they're going to retire. So great. Thank you, everyone. I'm not sure if that surprises people. That's what I had assumed. I think somehow in our heads we have, okay, you become technically an older adult at age 65, or you can retire technically at 65. Our society also places some financial pieces to the age of 65. So thank you. Okay, my next question, and this is for the chat box, but as you think about maybe a dream vocation that you've wanted to have, again, this could be a job that you're paid for or volunteer, or even just a hobby of interest, but what is a dream vocation that you wanted to do perhaps when you retire? Community organizer, art teacher, take care of dogs, arrange and deliver flowers. That's what I would like to do. Work with animals, educator, activity director, full-time artist, snow ski instructor. That's fun. Plant nursery, working in the garden, park attendant or of an RV park. This is great. I'm glad that you all are thinking about this, and it looks like it's quick and easy for you to write down those hopes and dreams. Keep thinking about that. Working at Hobby Lobby, I think that would be fun. I think it'd be fun to be a rock climbing instructor. Cats, yes. Increase your cattle farm, chicken farmer, work at a winery, rock babies. Wonderful. Master gardener, work at a brewery. Keep them coming. Keep writing those down. And if you've had multiple dreams and ambitions, keep writing those down. I think that is wonderful. Let's move into a little bit of our concept of aging. And so we talk about diversity and inclusion a lot, but we don't often talk about ageism. And so I want to, for a minute, speak about ageism. We hear this, keep the vocations coming. This is great. We hear these words of ageism all the time, and we don't necessarily think about it. We'll say things like, I'm having a senior moment, or this will show my age, but before the internet. Or we'll say things like, you're looking great for your age. Someone the other day told me that because of my age, I didn't I said that some amount of money was a lot of money. And they said, well, you only think that because you're in your 20s, right? So that was even an ageist comment. If you assume something about someone just because of their age, and unfortunately in our society, we tend to do that a lot. In front of kids, we'll say things like, oh, I can't get down, I'm getting too old, I won't be able to get back up. And I think we have good intentions for these things, but we send a message that old is bad and new is good. And they've actually been able to show that that gets instilled in kids by the time that they're age 3. So let's think about our words and how we're talking about aging so that we can be a positive impact on ageism. All right, so then the question becomes, what can your organization do? How can we be a part of the solution so that more people feel like the transition from retirement to whatever is next is more of an ease? What can we do that we can create a more positive story about aging, not only for ourselves, but for our society? And what can your organization do to be part of this? So there's a couple of different movements out there, and one is called Encore. And I've always, ever since I learned about Encore, I thought it was an incredible mission. And so the idea is it's a movement of baby boomers who are foregoing retirement and leisure in favor of putting their experiences to good use through a second career focused on social impact. And so you can see this is their website. They're focused on helping people find their purpose after the age of roughly 50, tapping Encore talent for your organization, standing up for and with young people, and then changing the story about aging. There is, that's the national effort, but there's a lot of really good local effort with this as well. And so the local chapter is called Next Chapter Kansas City. I hope some of you have tapped into them or been a part of them. I'm going to read to you a little bit about their mission. Next Chapter Kansas City exists to provide individuals aged 50 plus opportunities for learning, employment, and meaningful community engagement on a volunteer or paid basis as they discover the next chapter of their lives. Next Chapter Kansas City provides you a community of like-minded individuals who are also at a crossroad and seeking opportunities to use their time and skills for the benefit of their neighbors, the whole community, or for tackling global issues. Next Chapter can connect you to resources, volunteer opportunities, learning circles, and networking opportunities. So I love that. Someone put America's last remaining untapped natural resource. And I don't think we're tapping that resource enough. So I encourage you to look into getting involved with this organization. I want to share a couple of examples of people who have taken this Encore concept and they've maybe even gotten involved with the Encore organization. So this is Linda, and Linda worked for more than 30 years in the tech industry. She then joined an Encore fellowship where she did a one-year intern learning how to transfer those skills from the business sector into the social sector. And so now she's using her talents to innovate in schools. This is Jim. Jim used to be a financial advisor, and now he is using his passion of helping people get fit to be a financial trainer. There's a really great, gotta move my chat box real quick, Second Act Stories podcast. And so you can see that website there, secondactstories.org. I encourage you to share those with your organization, just about individuals who are finding the Encore, finding the second act, finding their next chapter, and making a difference because of it. My next example is Dr. Rosen. Dr. Rosen worked in the arts and music his whole life. Now he's known as the band grandpa. And so he's pouring into the lives of young individuals in the schools. And I think that illustrates a wonderful example of intergenerational relationships. That's a big part of Encore's mission, is that there's so much wisdom and joy and good things to be shared between generations. And so how can we more often tap into that and facilitate those relationships, whether that's in schools, church, our businesses? through mentor type situations. That's something for us to think about. Another example is foster grandparents, and that's an international organization that helps to pull together those intergenerational relationships. So in 2019, for the first time in America's history, we had more people over the age of 60 than under the age of 18. So we all know also that this age population is growing. Something that really inspired me, there's a company that was creating what they would call a master class. So what they did was they put on a class for those, let's say ages 40 to 70-ish, where they not only talked about the financial implications of retiring, but this was their curriculum. They talked about choosing your own journey. They talked about strengths. You'll see there that they have Medicare, which also includes your health, tax implications, estate planning, and then reflecting on your journey. So again, they're helping people think about their purpose, what they wanted to do. I think this is wonderful. I wish more organizations could provide this to their employees, and they might even find that they're able to then encourage their employees to take on different roles within the company as they move to their next career. Okay, so now I'm going to flip a little bit of the conversation to engagement and American workers. And so I talk about this a lot with companies. And so we're going to look at Gallup's definition of an engaged employee. So we're going to use this definition. An engaged employee is involved in and enthusiastic about their work. They're productive in moving the organization forward. So my question for you in the chat box is, how many U.S. workers do you think are engaged in their jobs? What percentage of U.S. workers do you think are engaged employees? 25%, 65, 33, 40, 30, 40s. Okay, this is a pretty positive group. All right, you ready for the answer? So the answer is 33% of the US population. So as I present about this, most of the time people guess around this number, and so it's not surprising. However, I do think it's sad. Think about how much of our lives are spent in our jobs, how much of our energy is spent in our jobs for not more people to be engaged. So then you've got your not engaged employees, and they're there, they show up. They might even be satisfied, but they're not necessarily moving your organization forward or bringing that discretionary effort into work. Yeah, it is sad. And that's 51% of the population. So then you've got your actively disengaged employees, and they're not only unhappy, but they are sharing with everyone else how unhappy they are. We've all worked with some of the bad apples, and you hope that they don't look like this. So if you thought of this as a boat, your engaged employees are rowing forward, your not engaged employees are sitting in the boat, they're along for the ride. Your actively disengaged workers are probably rowing the wrong direction. So if we think about how many organizations are in this state, it also changes how we view retirement. What could we do with this untapped potential of people ages 50 to 80 or so that could help increase employee engagement? Is there something that we could do to increase that? Kathy, I see that you're putting the Aging Mastery Program in there. Wonderful. Everyone should look into that. So here's active disengagement. I can hear you all laughing in your homes. And then I want to share an example of active engagement. So this is me early in the morning when I went down. I was at a hotel eating breakfast. I was at a conference that I had spoken at, and this was, my husband and I were at the end of breakfast. And this lady that I'm with here in the black attire, it was her job to create the breakfast spread, to make it look pretty and all that good stuff. So we came down, and she started asking us what we were going to do that day. And we said, we're going to go mountain biking. And so she started bringing out containers that we could put muffins in and put food in to take with us. which is very considerate. And then I overheard her speaking to her coworker about these flowers. These flowers were from her garden at home, and she brought them so that they could make the breakfast spread more beautiful. And I was just so impressed by that, right? No one expected her to do that. Her boss didn't tell her she had to bring flowers from her home. She just put discretionary effort into her work because she cared about it and she wanted to create a good experience for the customers. And so I think that is an example of a very engaged employee. So why are we talking about well-being and engagement? And then we'll talk about strengths, but all of them predict the futures of the others, right? So if your well-being is off, if you're going through a divorce and you're having headaches and you're in financial stress, your engagement at work is not going to be very good. In the same way, if engagement at work's not going well, it's going to create stress at home. And then your use of your strengths isn't going to be good. So we have to think about these three as going together through all aspects of our development in life. So let's talk a little bit more about this idea of employee engagement. And I also want you to think about, I know so many of you manage volunteers, and I think this can be applied in both scenarios. But as you're managing employees or managing volunteers, or stepping into a new vocation, these are the basic needs. When you show up, you need to know what is expected of you at work. And by the way, oftentimes this can be increased for the better or the worse by the direct supervisor or the direct manager. So you need to know what is expected of me when I come in the door. Number two, do I have the materials and equipment I need to do my job? So if I have to text a whole bunch of people, but my phone's not working, that's not going to work so well. In the same way, I have to have access to that database. So it could also include an access concept. Okay, next we have, do I get to do what I do best every day? And that one's directly applied to your strengths and your talents. Are you getting to use your strengths every day in your volunteer role, in your job, in your vocation? Number four, have I received recognition in the past 7 days? So we all need recognition way more often than we think. Does my supervisor or someone at work care about me as a person? So I think that can go back to the concept of well-being, right? Does that supervisor or someone at work care about your well-being regardless of your output as a worker or volunteer? Number six, is there someone at work that encourages my development? As we're going through these, I hope you're thinking a little bit about, again, which areas for you are going well and which areas have you found to be a struggle? Next. All right, number seven is, at work, do my opinions count? That doesn't mean that my opinion becomes action every time, but does someone take the time to listen to what I think about things? Does the mission and purpose of my company make me feel like the work that I'm doing is important? Number nine, are my coworkers committed to doing quality work? Can I rely on them? Can I hold them accountable? Number 10, do I have a best friend at work? So that language is really strong, but what this means is there someone at work that I can trust, that I could vent to if I needed to, or cry to, or maybe someone that I would go to lunch with because I want to, not because I have to. And then number 11, has someone spoken to me about my progress in the last 6 months? Number 12, at work, do I have opportunities to learn and grow? So as you think about those 12 factors, Gallup's really studied, what is it that creates an engaged work environment? Again, I'd like for you in the chat box, if you don't mind, share which area for you is going well and which area for you is the biggest challenge. Yeah, I'm seeing actually a lot about growth. It's wonderful when you're at a work organization where you feel like the people care about you, isn't it? Super blessed to have all these wonderful materials and equipment is a struggle. Yeah, so I'm seeing in there some stuff about managers, and a manager, like I said, kind of makes or breaks a lot of this experience. And so we certainly encourage everyone to try to contribute to the engagement of their coworkers, but definitely needs to be there with direct supervisors. And right, I think as a volunteer, sometimes you don't get this same feedback, but that can impact your experience as a volunteer as well. Great, definitely more challenging during COVID. I would agree with that. Also, I will say that most organizations struggle the most with question 1. Which is surprising. They say 4 in 10 people will say that their job description actually matches what they're expected to do when they go to work. So that's something to think about too. Make sure that you and those around you know exactly what's expected of you. All right, so we're going to move into the concept of strengths. If some of you are familiar with Gallup Strengths Finder, feel free to put it in the chat. Some of you have maybe even taken the assessment. It's a tool by Gallup, and I'm going to introduce the concept to you. A man named Don Clifton in the 1950s asked the question, what will happen when we think about what is right with people rather than fixating on what is wrong with them? What a beautiful question. Traditionally, psychology is very much focused on what's wrong with people, right? What's the disease? What do we need to improve? What's the illness? And conventional wisdom would certainly say, identify your weaknesses and then work on improving those. So Dr. Clifton, when he asked this question, he created a hypothesis. And his hypothesis was, when you take someone's talent, their natural way of thinking, feeling, or behaving, and you invest in that, you spend time practicing it, developing your skills, increasing your knowledge base around that talent, it will equal strength, the ability to consistently provide near perfect performance. So this was the hypothesis. Being a good scientist, he decided to test it. There's a couple of different tests, but I want to share this one example. This is about speed reading. And so he took a big group of high school students and he had them take a speed reading test. And then he broke them into 2 groups. We had average speed readers who could read at 90 words per minute. And then we had above average speed readers who could read at 350 words per minute. He then, for 3 years, he had both groups do tutoring. They learned tactics on how to speed read better. They practiced, and then they took the assessment again. So my question to you, go ahead and put it in the chat box, is both groups obviously were able to increase in their words per minute, but which group do you think increased exponentially the most? Do you think it was the average group that increased the most or the above average group? Who do you think increased the most, the average or the above average? Okay, I'm seeing a lot of average. All right, so the average speed readers, they did get better. They went up to 150 words per minute, which is great. That's 66% increase. The above average speed readers went up to 2,900 words per minute. That's 828% better. I get the goosebumps every time I share this story because what does this tell us? This tells us that if someone is already predisposed to having talent, the more time they invested in it, the better they got. Where if someone was average, they could work and work and work on it and get a little bit better, but maybe never be able to reach that same level of excellence, which is incredible. So what this tells us is not everyone's going to be good at speed reading, but not everyone's good at telling a joke or meeting strangers or analyzing data or being organized, right? Everyone's good at something, but your potential to be the best is far greater in the areas where you already have talent than areas with which we're trying to play catch up. And so then Dr. Clifton said, okay, there's something here. And we, as a society, we have language for external talent you can see, but not necessarily internal talent. So as you all think about the word talent, there's two areas of our society where we identify talent at a young age and we foster and develop it. Can you guess what those two areas are in the chat box? Math and reading. Okay, sometimes athletics, sports and academics. Sports, yep. Okay, so the first one is athletics. The second one is the arts, right? Music, dancing. I wish we did it more in school, and I'd like to hope that we're moving more to where we're doing that in school as well. Yeah, music. So then Dr. Clifton said, okay, why do we so easily understand this in athletics and performing arts, but we completely forget about it when it comes to human development and our professional organizations? So Dr. Clifton created what we call the Clifton Strengths or Strengths Finder, and it has these 34 different talents. So anyone can take the assessment and you get to learn your top 5 talents or your full 34. And it helps you get an idea of, okay, here's what I'm already good at. So I'm going to spend more time on this. So for my personal strengths journey, I was working really, really hard on being more adaptable. But I learned through strengths and my talents that wasn't necessarily my talent. I could spend a lot of time the rest of my life trying to be more adaptable, but I'm going to have far greater returns on my investment if I spend more time on my discipline strength, which was already there, versus working on my weaknesses. But it also teaches you then that you can partner with people who are different than you. So the idea is we don't necessarily have to be well-rounded individuals. We need well-rounded teams. So why do I bring this up with the concept of aging and retirement? I think it's really important that we look at our own strengths and we ask ourselves, how am I going to be able to use my strengths in retirement? So if you have a high learner and in your job, you're getting to learn a lot and you retire, what are you going to do that's going to continue to allow you to have those opportunities to learn so that you can be engaged? If you have high achiever and you like to check off things on your to-do list, how in retirement are you going to continue that opportunity to achieve? If you have high developer, you like to pour into the development of others, that could be a great clue that you would be a great mentor to younger individuals. And so that might give you clues to how you can continue to have purpose and meaning and be engaged within your next career. So again, remember we talked about, well, why talk about strengths, well-being, and engagement together? They all predict one another and they're all important. And as we think about them a lot, and like I said, if someone's graduating, a career counselor is helping you think about these areas of your life for the next step. But when you retire, who's helping you think about these areas and how you're going to make sure that these are put into use in that next stage? So right now I'm going to have you do a quick activity. You have a handout, and if you printed it out, great. If you didn't print it out, just grab a piece of scrap paper and a pen. And I'm going to have you do this activity. I'm going to time you, so please don't start yet. I'm going to have you write, I am strong, 5 times. So I am strong, I'm strong, I'm strong, I'm strong. 5 times. And I would like you to use cursive because cursive is technically the fastest. And I read somewhere that using your left hand will be best. So I'd like you to use cursive and your left hand. And I'm going to give you 30 seconds. So is everybody ready? Okay. Ready, set, go. Oh, someone's a lefty. Lucky. Halfway there. 10. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, and stop. All right, how many did everyone get done? Try to write it in the comment section. And how did that feel? 2, 3, 2.5. It felt strange. It felt hard. Lots of scribbles. Frustrating. Yeah. Awkward. Yeah. So the lefty was lucky, right? Done doesn't look good. Okay. So how often do we go into a job or a task or an activity and someone says, this is the best way to do it? Or we've read this is the best way to do it, or this is the fastest way, so everyone needs to do it the same. That happens quite often. So we're going to do it again. And this time, I want you to write I am strong 5 times, but I want you to choose how to get there. So you do it in the way that works best for you. All right? And I'm going to time you again. Okay, ready, set, go. All right, halfway there. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, a couple of people finished early, finished in half the time. Wonderful. 5, 7, you got more than 5 done. That's great. So much easier. Yeah. So how often again are we told, hey, here's the outcome and here's how I want you to get there, versus here's the outcome, now you choose the best way to get there based on your strengths, right? So that's the purpose of this activity is how can we define the right outcomes, but then encourage people to get there in the way that works best for them. So that's an invaluable lesson as a manager, as a volunteer manager, and it just reminds us how different everyone is. So good job. All right, now we get to think about your own talents or strengths. So to me, this is the next best thing to taking the assessment. And so you have a sheet of paper that was handed out. There's a fillable PDF version that was emailed. Again, you may have printed that out. So I want to have you spend a little time reflecting and writing down what you think your talents are. And we have these 5 clues, so I'll go through them and then I will give you a little bit of time. Number 1, a clue to talent is a yearning. So these are activities that you're drawn to, activities that you look forward to doing, that you want to do. You may think back to when you're younger, things that you couldn't wait to do. I couldn't wait to play outside. I couldn't wait to, I loved playing with my planner in school. So as people think through this, I want you to think about both your hobbies, but also in your professional or career life as well. Okay, number 2 is what gives you satisfaction? What leaves you wanting to do something again? What activities are satisfying? For an achiever, that's getting to check things off the list. For someone with strategic, that's getting to think about all the different ways something might fit together. For someone with futuristic, it's getting to dream about the future. Number 3 is learn rapidly. And this is hard for people to think about. Again, I think your strengths are a little bit like the bridge of your nose. It's there, but you don't see it. Right? Because it's so natural to you. So these are activities that you pick up quickly, probably more quickly than other people. So I remember in the 6th grade, our teacher got out this video about time management. And I found everything really fascinating that they taught us. But I remember thinking, I already do all of that. And so for me, time management was something I never really felt like I had to learn. I just picked it up, right? I never pulled an all-nighter because I really liked to plan out how the time frame of how things would work. And so that would be something that I would say I pick up rapidly. Anytime we learn a new strategic board game, I don't pick that up so quickly. So again, think about what are those things that you, unlike other people, have just picked up quickly and you don't really understand why someone else doesn't get it. All right, number 4 is excellence. When is a time that maybe somebody else, it's usually someone else who tells us you had a moment of excellence. So they said something to you like, did you realize you're really good at working with toddlers? You have a knack for that. Or, wow, you're really creative in the kitchen. Just something where someone else noticed, did you realize you're really good at X? And again, often I don't think we always see that excellence in ourselves. It takes someone else pointing it out. And so that's my encouragement for you today, to make sure that you tell someone when you see them do something great, make sure you tell them, because otherwise they might not recognize it. So when is that flash of excellence? And number 5 is flow. Whoops, got to go back. Number 5 is flow. For those of you who keep track of psychology, it's kind of a new concept, but this concept of flow is this idea that you are so engrossed in an activity that you lose track of time. You're in a state of flow. So I've often been told by participants, well, when I'm looking at Facebook, but that doesn't count. So flow has to be a state where you're challenged, you're engaged, you're having to work hard, but at the same time, it's coming to you. So musicians often talk about being in a state of flow as they're playing an instrument. So think about what have been those times when you're in a state of flow. As you continue to write and reflect, I would love for a couple people to share what they have in the chat box. Organizing. One time when I presented this, somebody said, fishing for every single one of them. And I said, hey, that's great. See if you can make a job out of it. People skills, great. Backpacking, maybe even being outdoors, helping seniors and family. Yes, I was a senior in high school and I was volunteering at a nursing home, and someone said to me, did you know you're really good at working with older adults? And when I thought about that, I thought, yeah, I love being around older adults. I love talking to them, but I never would have realized that that was something unique to me until someone mentioned it. Cooking, working with seniors, camping. We probably all share that love of working with older adults. That's great. Oh, working with different cultures, empathy and listening, wonderful. Talking, gardening, programming, completing projects, right? A lot of people get satisfaction out of completion. Some people get more satisfaction out of the process itself. Being with animals, facilitating conversations. Oh, and here's somebody's top 5. Yeah, if other people have their top 5, feel free to share. That's great. Thank you, everyone. Keep thinking about those talents. And again, the purpose of that then is, okay, how can I aim these talents at my goals in life? How can I aim these talents at increasing my own well-being? How can I aim these talents at increasing my own engagement? As I think about the challenge and concerns I have for retirement and that next chapter of life, how can I aim my talents? Because that's what's helped you be successful in your own life. That's great. Networking, that's another great one. Yeah. So as someone who loves strengths and loves working with older adults, I've gotten to do a lot of different strengths workshops with lots of different people. And my favorite one I've ever done was with this group of older adults who are actually in an assisted living in Manhattan, Kansas. And this experience was great. And I came away with a couple of key findings, if you will. One was a lot of them had the strength of connectedness, which means that you can see how you're a piece of a much bigger puzzle in life. And I had to ask myself, is that just because they've had experience in life and have seen that, or is that just a coincidence of that group? Not sure. They also were all really, really good at describing what they were good at without having to use the strengths language. So many times when you're working with college students, this idea of talents and their strengths is new to them, right? They're finding out who they are. This group of individuals, they knew they were a learner. They knew they were a joyful person. They knew it and they owned it. And they were just really good at describing who they were and what their strengths were and putting that to use. And they were proud of it. And I was proud of them for that. We ended up having a really interesting discussion about how does our society use the strengths of this age of individuals. And one of them said, we need to continue to use our strengths. The world needs us. And I thought that was a beautiful quote. And I do think that our society, our world needs to use the strengths more of these groups of individuals. And the question is, how can we do that more? So I'm going to have you break into your breakout rooms for just about 5 minutes here as we wrap up. But my question to you, my challenge to you is, how do we make this happen? How do we make this happen for ourselves, for our neighbors, and in our organizations? So I'm going to have you break out in your breakout rooms and answer this question. How do we make this happen? And then when you come back, if someone will type some thoughts in the chat room, that will be great. So Carmela, if you would help everyone get into their breakout rooms, that would be wonderful. We'll give you about 5 minutes in your breakout rooms. How do we make this happen? How do we as a society help people find their next chapter, celebrate their next chapter, use their strengths, engagement, and well-being in this second phase of life? Welcome back. As you come back, I'd love for you to chat in the chat box. What are some of your solutions? What are some of the ideas you came up with? I think everyone here today is on a mission to make all of these things happen. So just let us know in the chat box, what is some of what you talked about? What were some of your ideas? What are some of your solutions? Welcome back, everybody. I know everyone's just making their way in. Great. Just about everyone should be back now. Again, in the chat room, feel free to type some of the what did you talk about? What were some of your ideas? What are some of the solutions? What do you think we can do? Working with senior citizen centers, great. Using technology, that's great. Examples, knowing your strengths, right? What are some of the other solutions? Validation of others and ourselves is key, right? I remember when I did this strengths workshop with the older adults, no matter what your age, everyone likes to be validated for who they are and what gives them value and what they bring to a team. That doesn't change no matter what your age is. You could be 85, living a happy life. It still feels good to be validated. Building effective teams, right? Rebranding, no more senior centers. Yeah, so again, that's back to how do we speak about aging? Church, I think church is a great example. I know that's where I've had a lot of my own intergenerational experiences. Yeah, letting senior volunteers use their strengths, absolutely. Praising others and telling them when we see them doing good things, yeah. Face-to-face, right, conversation with older adults. Researching, making contacts, engaging others, that's great. Thank you, everyone. Please continue to put those solutions in there. And I know you'll have my contact as well. I'll type it in there, but I'm always happy to brainstorm on this topic because I want to see a world where we make more of this happen more often, right? So as I wrap up today, here's my encouragement to you. I hope that we see more retirement cards and retirement celebrations that look more like this greeting card, right? And so the adventure begins. I hope that we can continue to look forward to that. And I hope that each of you also retire to your next adventure. So with that, that's my contact information. I really enjoyed being with everyone today. Thank you for your comments, for your activity. You make the digital presenting much better, and I'll look forward to staying in touch with you all. And yes, get plugged into the Encore network. So thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Kristin. That was an amazing presentation. I had my brain was just a spinning there and had personal questions I had to ask myself too. We hope you will join us for the next workshop, Journey of Grief and Loss, from Surviving to Striving to Thriving, presented by John Carey and Christian Hansen. This workshop will begin approximately at 10:45 a.m. Look for an email this afternoon with the links to the participant evaluation for this morning's workshop. Enjoy your short break, and thank you again, Christian. That was a wonderful seminar.
Thank you.
Welcome to the workshop, Journeys of Grief and Loss, presented by John Carney, President and CEO of the Center for Practical Bioethics, and Christy Hansen with the Kansas City Hospice and Palliative Care.